Of the specificity of that cancellation number, both ends of that range start with a 100. And so that is our story. It will cost us at least $100 million to cancel this project. We hope that we don't have to go to a ballot initiative. But believe me when I say we will be ready if we have to go to a ballot initiative. And so everyone, please welcome Yvette Simpson.
We accomplished. One, we had to make sure we made clear that if the streetcar is stopped, that the money cannot be repurposed. That was very clearly articulated by the chief legal officer of the FTA. So it was very clear there's three sources of funds. One would go back to the Treasury. The other hungry folks in Kansas City and Charlotte are ready to take that money for their project. There are 14 projects currently being funded by the federal government to the tune of $500 million. Total project cost of $1.2 billion. And any one of those projects would be happy to see us stop so that they can take our money. So that was very clearly articulated. There's about $4 million in a CMAQ grant that would go back to the governor to reallocate, but that's it. $40 million of it would effectively be gone. And so that was what we wanted to articulate. He made that very, very clear. The second piece was, what does it mean to the federal government if we stop this project now? So for future projects, and he made very clear that they have a process for this. There's only one other project that he could talk about. There was a New Jersey project where this has happened this late in the game. And he said that we, with full force of the federal government, went after them for collection. They were in collection for the better part of a year, spent $1 million in attorney's fees to stop the project and to get the collection taken underway, and that they lost effectively $100 million in federal funding, that the federal government took that money from that. So it was really clear for us, based on that illustration, that that would happen to us, that within 30 days of either stopping or halting the project, that the federal government would come after its money. And so we needed to articulate that. That was very, very clear. The other part was, what happens in the future? And so what happens in the future is we go to the back of the line. He basically said we're the golden child as it relates to federal funding for projects, because this is an important project. We've done everything up to this point. We've gotten a ton of money, a lot of more money than most projects for this funding, and that right now we're in a great position. And if we finish the project, which we fully intend to do with your support, and then we ask for additional money to extend the line or for light rail or additional projects, then we would have that coveted position, because we will have completed a project with the federal government funding, and we will have shown the wherewithal to continue. Now, what happens if we don't? So that was really clear, that us finishing the project gives us favor for future projects, streetcar extensions, light rail, additional transit projects, including things like the Brent Spence Bridge project. So what happens if we don't? And that was really interesting, because I didn't expect a lawyer, as a lawyer myself, to be so very clear. I was expecting there to be some like, well, maybe this and maybe that. So he said several times, you will, as a city, go to the back of the line. That you will go to the back of the line as it relates to federal transit projects going forward. That you will not only be behind the current projects that are being funded, but you'll be in line with people who are just starting and maybe a little bit behind them. And there's a long, long line and very few funds. And so it was really great to hear him articulate that we would go to the back of the line, and that it would take years for us to earn our way back into favor with the federal government in order to get federal funding for projects. And so that was really important as we think about the many projects that we have that are transit-oriented that still need to be funded, including the Brent Spence project. So basically what he said, which I think you all will appreciate time and time again, was, we like to fund projects that we know are going to get finished. Go figure. Go figure. So his wisdom to us was, finish the project, and if you don't, we won't believe you for the future to ever finish another project, and therefore we probably won't give you much money. And so that was what we wanted to make clear. And so another thing happens, and he did also, we tried to make this point, I think in the funding phase, the last meeting, that stop and halt, according to the federal government funding, is the same thing. So if we try to delay the project, stop the project, immediately upon that happening, if there is any question about the project actually being stopped. So he said, oh, if it's a short period of time and you're just kind of delaying, we might give you a little grace, but if we have any indication that you are delaying and intend to stop the project, and if a significant period of time happens, then we treat that as a default and you will be immediately set for collection. SORTA will have to find a way to pay back the money, and basically your checking account will be closed. So any invoices that you have right now that have not yet been paid cannot be paid out of federal funds. And so you're going to have to find another way. And as you all, anybody who paid attention to the funding meeting, you know that there is a chunk of money that will be paid out through November, through the end of this month, November 30th. But then there's a ton, $8, $10, $12 million in invoices that still need to be paid out. Those invoices cannot be paid once we go to delay, cannot be paid out of federal funds. And so they made that very clear. So as you know, $44 million, $45 million, we can't use any of those dollars. And so that was really important for him to articulate. So that was really key. And so we did one more thing today, and Ian will appreciate this because this will help you all in your effort. They called it symbolic, and I'm glad that they did. We passed an ordinance out of Budget and Finance today, expressing council's intention and direction to the administration to continue the streetcar project. You can clap for that. So what that means, symbolic or otherwise, is that in the event the new council, which of course includes me, wants to stop the project, they will have to either rescind the ordinance that we will pass through council tomorrow, that passed by five of course votes. 2 abstentions, Charlie Winburn and P.G. Sittenfeld both abstained, did not vote no, but abstained on that vote today. And tomorrow we will pass out of council the ordinance directing the administration, the new administration, to continue funding and working on the streetcar project. So the new council, maybe I should have been here for the happy hour. Clearly it was very productive. Very, I'm happy, I'm glad. So what that means is that the new council will have to affirmatively either rescind that ordinance to stop or delay, or they'll have to pass another ordinance directing the administration to stop. And why that's important is, we had heard rumblings that there was a potential that the new administration, when brought in, would be informally directed to slow down or stop the project. And we wanted to make sure that council, who should have the power to stop a project, actually has that power. And by passing that ordinance tomorrow, hopefully with the support of Mr. Winburn and Mr. Sittenfeld and others, then we will force the new administration either a week or 2 weeks in, if they desire, they can leave it the way it is and we continue the project, if they desire to pass an ordinance to stop the streetcar. And then that will be a record that will not only be on display for everyone from now into eternity and certainly by the next council race, but also a trigger for the efforts that Ian is talking about. That would be when this group would need to activate, and that would set the trigger for the referendum, because you would want to referendum something, an official act of council stopping or halting the project. So that was the development of today. Know that while you all organize, I was glad to see that you all have a plan and clearly are fired up and ready to go. I know, right? Fired up and ready to go to keep this project going. But know that we're continuing our efforts to try to make it very difficult from a policy standpoint. And know this, starting when the new council gets started, I and several other people will continue from a policy internal standpoint and from what other standpoint we can legally support the ongoing forward progress of this project and the city of Cincinnati.